Side, New York. She's a painter and her husband's a railroad brakeman. And he's coming home in a couple of hours, about 5 hours from the local. Of course, the room's in a mess. There's her husband's coat on the chair. Been there for 3 days. Neckties and his tortured socks. Just to get the kid up to go to school. Pablo. He says, do I have to eat that stuff all over again, that farina? I ain't gonna say that I'm gonna live 100 years, but I've been eating farina for about 100 years. She said, button your fly and go out and answer the door. We record solo with Allen Ginsberg there. And their beer cans out on the table, bringing up all the wine, wearing hoods and parkas, falling on the couch, all bursting with poetry while she's saying, now you get your coat, get your little hat, and we're going to go off to school. They helped to you this morning, Mr. Hart Crane, the old bridge. See, look at all those cars out there. There's nothing out there but a million screaming 90-year-old men being run over by gasoline trucks. So throw the match on. Well, that's fine. She says, come on now. Got no school, learn all about the geography and astronomology and bibliology and etymologies and poetology and good biology. He said, I don't know what's going on. They're sitting there talking about Empire State Building and dooms and bridges, and they wake up. Goodbye. Well, he says, I tell you my poem about the Empire State Building that ended up doomed to the dumb eyes of New York all the time. That's pretty good. She said, I've got a new poem too. So Ma Rainey dying in an ambulance. I said, I've written some poems. I see your poems. All these poets struggling to be poets. Kenneth Fearing, and Kenneth Rexroth, and W.H. Borden, and Louis Bogan, and all the poets. But burning in the purple moonlight at the same time if they want to. Literature on the little purple moonlight pages, in which their secret naked doodlings do show. Secret scatological thought. That's why everybody wants to see it. So here he was again, and he fell back, he was all excited, and he laid out his paper and smacked on the floor, and made a few little funny signs at me. Gesture all the, die all the, crucified all the, Golgotha all the, it seems. Yes, that's right, 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 that's what I said. If you read a Apollinaire, what do you mean I haven't read a Apollinaire? I read a Apollinaire, I wrote books about Apollinaire, I wrote essays about Apollinaire. What about Apollinaire, man? Jumping back down, Apollinaire, man. Come on, no, like a hip cat, you know, hipster, no, it's you see, well, Apollinaire wrote a poem at the grave of Balzac and fell down. And Balzac, come on, man, I see you riding around all day long like that. I'm tired. What are you trying to play violence for? Don't you know that the Empire State has fallen underneath the Gowanus Canal? No, the Lower East Side has produced all the strange gum-chewing geniuses. I said, he said, you make me, I could tell you poems that would make you weep with long hair. Goodbye, goodbye. And here comes the man of the house, Milo, followed by Peter the saint. Well,
Why, a bunch of bums are still hanging around here talking, drinking beer. And I've been working on the railroad all day and I'm mighty tired and I'm going to wash my face, put my lamp away. And meanwhile, I tell you, the bishop's coming, as you know, and you guys got to act a little on behavior there because we don't want to hang the bishop up, you understand? Right, Alan? Are you all agreed about acting? Is he a saint? Yeah, sure, he's a saint, yeah. They're all saints, yeah. It's just, now, fellas, no flukes, no nonsense. I'm going back here and I'm going to take my coat off. Now you told me all that this morning, man. Don't bug me anymore. I'm tired.
She lays out the table because the salt is drying in the stove. All right, I'm gonna have a big night now.
Well, what are we going to say to him? That's all right, he's a good guy. It's all right, fellas, just sit back there. Just sit there and write poems or something. I'll go in the bathroom and watch television there.
Mr. Bishop, she says.
Why, the bishop already? He said I haven't washed my face yet. I'm going back to Venice. Be courtly and polite, as befits poets. It's not all the poets meet. The railroad poet. Good evening, Bishop. I'm most glad to see it, sir. And then he's delighted. And he meets the other poet, the Russian poet, the Italian poet, the Jewish poet. The lady that is the bishop's mother is taking off her gloves, and the wife runs around fixing everything, and they help her off with her coat, and I also want to sit here. Did you ask the bishop what he wanted? He said, yes, he wanted a little tea. Bishop, I want to ask you some serious questions about Buddhism, which I understand you know all about. Well, I know something about it. Nevertheless, he says, is it true that all the ignoos that come falling inside the magic beer bottle, magian candlestick? I'm sorry, I'm goofing there. Bishop says, goofy? He says, yes, goofy means I'm playing around with words. I want to ask you some really serious questions. Bishop says, So Gregory says, now look, I'm going to ask you something that concerns all of us. He said, is it true that we're all in heaven now and we don't know it? And that if we knew it, we would still know it. But that because we don't know it, we go around and act just the way that we do when we know it. But isn't it strange to realize that Buddhism is all involved with the fact that you don't have to get one way or the other about anything, and you can do anything you want, really. Yes, he said that's well stated. He said the whole thing depends on ignorance, which is. And he said, what? And Alan was saying, his ignorance is rippling up above the silver ladder of surety and loves. He said, yes, and yeah. And I suppose, he says, in any case, when we are not concerned one way or the other about what we're thinking about anything in particular, perhaps we sit in some kind of quiet bliss. And he goes on trying to explain it because he really knows what he's talking about. And he says, angels and ministers that do stand before me. And they say, why? Angels and ministers. And here comes old Ned McGillicuddy right down that line there, banging on the organ. And says, hang on, Daddy. And she says, oh, if that wasn't odd enough. Old Ned McGillicuddy was disturbed her many a midnight evening. And old Milo, he's quite pleased to see him there because he don't, but at the same time he has to talk to Bishop. It's all right, he says, son, Patrick's all right, he's all right, he's my good friend there. Oh, buddy, Mad's gone in the toilet to do something. They sit around the table, well, they're getting kind of congenial. By God, even the woman feels good, and she walks around, old Milo there, sits down, and the Bishop is feeling pretty good there. He's got some other things to tell him. He's got his own thoughts, and meanwhile, Ned's coming out of the toilet. Yes, sir, he said. He comes out and shakes hands with the Bishop's sister. Oh, yeah, I mean, you know, old Alan there shakes hands with the shapes up hands with the Bishop's mother. And then he comes up and he shakes hands with the Bishop himself. That's a kind of strange and interesting evening, says the Bishop. The Bishop says, but I don't know anything. Oh, I thought you knew something that you could say. He says, well, there's one thing that I don't know what to say, and that is what to say what I really mean. Peter says, have you ever played baseball and seen girls with tight dresses? The Bishop says, well, yeah. Yes, I suppose so. Peter says, is baseball holy? Is baseball holy? The angel of silence hath flown over all their heads. Yes, it's early, late, or middle Friday evening in the universe. All the sounds of time are pouring through the window and the key. All I dear thee in windows and bedarbled, mad, bedraggled robes that rolled in the cave of Amonti Dio. And all the sherried heroes lost and caved up, and Transylvanian heroes mixing themselves up with Glazer Vop. and the hydrogen bomb of hope.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall and had a great fall, but all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't fix Humpty together again.
Poor Gregory, the hero of stove and pipe butter. Well, it could have been better, because if Milo wasn't so silly and invited all these silly friends of his, we could have done some kind of impression of the bishop. Unrequited loves aboard. So, it all stands in the bathtub. Queen of Sheba takes a bath in this bathtub every day. Dishes, toothbrushes, cockroaches, coffee cockroaches, stove cockroaches, city cockroaches, spot cockroaches, melted cheese cockroaches, flour cockroaches, chaplain cockroaches, peanut butter cockroaches, cockroach, cockroach of the eyes. Strange thoughts you young people have. Is everything holy? Is alligators holy, Bishop? Is the world holy? Is the basketball holy? Is the organ of man holy? The bishop says, what? Holy, holy. Well, he said, oh, my mother must play the organ? And mother says, holy, yes, but I'm going to play a little music here. And Pat, being a musician, Pat McGillicuddy gets up and says, Peter, give me the chair so I can let her play on the organ there. This little Lord, I need a pillow or something. I'll get you a pillow. Now, hearing these people talk about holy, I thought I would pretend to play some little inspirational number. The darling, to her daughter, says, will you come and pump for me? She says, yes, mother, I'm coming. if you know what I mean. And mother, I think we're getting home now. It's almost 11 o'clock. The wife comes over and says, is it really almost 11 o'clock? I didn't notice. Meanwhile, these guys aren't paying any attention to all that. They're just blowing. The other cats are over there talking and nothing polite. Some of them are doing something, some of them are saying goodbye. Doing something and saying goodbye and saying goodbye and doing something, they're both the same. And do you really have to leave now? They said, we really do. She says, well, don't leave. And he says, yes, come sister, I'll get your coat. She says, I really don't want you to leave. I think we're all having a... He says, yes. He says, but I'm thinking if I leave there. Hey there, I turned around my house and said, sit on my lap because you can't sleep anymore. He says, what are you doing up there so late? I know what you want to do. He says, yeah, now I'm playing my horn. It's all right, let's go. Sits and plays the mysterious music that draws all the Irishmen and down with the back rooms of Dublin. Jamambi, Jabambi, Jamak, Jamak, Jabambi, Jabambi, Jamak, Jamak. And elder-twide old tweezies fighted the prize. Jamambi, 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 Jamak. They say, wow, I said, let's do something we've never done. Never we've heard that. He said, come on, hey, let's play cowboys. I'm going to be a cowboy. No, I'll play a cowboy. Then I'll play a cowboy. He said, I'll do my Russian cowboy. No, boy, says Milo, I'll come over here and do my cowboy. Fellow got off a dusty old roan one time in southwest Pecos country and stepped up on the sidewalk, spurred jingles, and said, Lord. Because there was a preacher in there preaching. Yeah, said Greg. But at his feet was sitting a wino with his legs crossed drinking wine, saying, Preacher, I understand you. And I aimed my gun right at him, and I said, don't you believe in God? Pow! What did you do that for? Pow! All this nonsense. You've been doing this all the time. For years you've been doing this. They think it's very funny because they don't know a thing about Time magazine. He says, all this time we should have fed him some food, we should have done good, we should have given, all the time you give him wine and beer and give him all these beatniks in the house. He says, I shap. He says, I didn't do nothing, and you know I didn't do nothing, and it's not bad. These are nice fellows. They're just sitting up now, they're getting him. They're leaving. I don't blame them for leaving. You don't understand. He said, come on, Milo, this gang, come on there, Peter, Gregory, Alan, let's go. Come on down those steps. Let's go. We'll go somewhere, we'll find something, maybe we'll play by fires in the Bowery. He's crying. He says, come on. He says, don't cry. There's nothing to cry about. She says, what do you know about what to cry about? Milo! Milo! He says, I certainly do know what there is to cry about, and it ain't nothing that has to do anything with this that's happening right now. And the rose swings. She'll get over it. Come on, Milo. Here comes sweet Milo. Beautiful Milo. Hello, gang. Da-da-da-da-da. They're going da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Off they go.
Can you hear now? Okay. First, thank you for staying and watching it. We have work for people here tonight, and we did, I think, the first 10 screenings. And it was just so much fun doing it, and we hope now a whole generation of people is watching that are interested in what it was like then. And I'm sure, I wouldn't dare speak for anyone else, but I'm sure if Jack was here, he would want to see people today doing what they felt they were put here to do. Because that's the kind of people that were older than us and encouraged us to pursue the impossible idea of trying to do what they were supposed to do, which was as little as possible. I have to remember that. Anyway, for those of you who came in late, let me reintroduce, please, the wonderful members of our chamber orchestra playing the conga drums, and also the person who's now running this place and will do a solo album for his dad later on, Mr. Lee Falcon himself. As you know, he's a great drummer in addition to everything else, and he's sitting and playing congas instead of the drums, as he's a regular drummer Kane. And my son Adam was working tonight all day long and couldn't get off working for art handler. He had to drive a truck, and he said, I want to play with the wonderful bass player that we have who's free named Don Miller, who's an old friend, and really wanted to come and since he's loved everybody. But Don Miller is here, so please welcome again the great bass player. Don's the person in the dark coat. Again, for Mr. Don Miller. And playing the drum set, and later on we're going to play the glockenspiel, Mr. Kevin Twig. And we actually sent this to put it in my mind. We're going to continue to do a little something by Jack and then do some other music. But we have two wonderful guest artists. But in order for me to remember who was going to do what, and I just want to make sure. John? That's what they call a rehearsal. Okay. I'd like to introduce, before he plays, both of the gentlemen who are guest artists are here honoring us with their presence. But we have a wonderful person who went to Vassar College. I don't know if any of you have been there or not. I played there, I think, about 40 years ago. And I was playing with John McEwen upstate, and a lot of people who go to college with the gentleman you're going to hear remember him as Mr. High IQ, and everyone at the school was either going to be a lawyer, a doctor, a businessman, or the next president. And there they were sitting, the smartest guy in their class years later, and rather than running a bank or a European empire, he became this, and is a fantastic guitar player, recording engineer, voiceover person, does all kinds of stuff. But he's also an amazing country singer. And later on you're going to hear him do that. But he's also a terrific reader and just such a wonderful guy. And it was so nice to play with John, because being the sideman, I could kind of peek out and see the audience looking astonished, seeing their fellow classmate doing all that stuff which no one at Vassar dreamed anyone who graduated from there with honors would ever be doing. And before you hear him read his and sing his incredible country style, he's going to read for us a poem that Jack himself wrote about what it was like doing what he did. And just before he does that, I would like to read something about Jack himself. He was interviewed by Ben Hecht, who's a wonderful playwright, who wrote the front page of those great. And he went to Hollywood and kind of got depressed, as most people do, stay there. And he was interviewing Jack, and he couldn't stand the fact that Jack, even though he was struggling at that point, still seemed to love life so much and other people and literature, not just his own books, but all literature, art, and music. And he kept saying about, you don't sound beat, you don't sound beat. So he finally said, what is beat? In a kind of a snarling way. And this is what Jack Kerouac himself said. He said, I want to speak four things. For the crucifix I speak out. For the Star of Israel I speak out. For the divinest man who ever lived, who is a German, Bach. I speak out for Muhammad. I speak out for Buddha. I speak out for Lao Tse and Chong Tse. I speak out for D.T. Suzuki. I speak out for all of them. Why should I attack what I love out of life? This is beat. Live your lives out. Love your lives out. Jack Kerouac.
Amen.
I just said that because we were working down 3rd Avenue when the Dawn of the Bones came out. Jack was already committed the greatest crime of any artist in American history. He fell out of fashion. And he said, they don't read my books anymore. I said, why don't they read my books? When that Rolex said, I'm an author. I'm an author. Why don't they read my books? Not the books written about me, but read my books. So we're going to do 2 readings of what Jack himself wrote. And the first thing, in 1 page, is just such a beautiful description of the history of jazz. And reading it, there's a very unnamed man, singer, composer, songwriter, guitar picker, king of the Appalachian Conquers when he feels like doing that, and just about everything else. The amazingly talented Mr. Matt Cardonis.
Hi.
Let them go, or are you guys going ahead? Oh.
This starts in Italian. Andante. Once, there was Louis Armstrong blowing his beautiful top in the muds of New Orleans. Before him, the mad musicians who had paraded on official days and broke up the Sousa marches into ragtime. Then there was swing and Roy Eldridge, vigorous and virile, blasting the horn for everything it had in waves of power and logic and subtlety, leaning to it with glittering eyes and a lovely smile, and sending it out broadcast to rock the jazz world. Then had come Charlie Parker. A kid in his mother's woodshed in Kansas City, blowing his taped up alto among the logs, practicing on rainy days, watch the old swinging bassy and Benny Moten band that had our hot lips page and the rest. Charlie Parker leaving home, coming home to Harlem, and meeting Mad Thelonious Monk and Matter Gillespie. Charlie Parker in his early days, when he was flipped and walked around in a circle while playing. Somewhat younger than Lester Young, also from KC, that gloomy, saintly goof for knew the history of jazz was wrapped. For when he held his horn high and horizontal from his mouth, he blew the greatest. And as his hair grew longer and he got lazier and stretched out, his horn came down halfway till it finally fell all the way. And today, as he wears his thick-soled shoes so that he can't feel the sidewalks of life, his horn is held weakly against his chest, and he blows cool and easy get-out phrases. Here were the children of the American Pop Night.
Matt Cardonis. Jack Kerouac. Our next reader is a friend of my daughter's, Adira, and I just met her tonight, but I know from what Adira told me that she'll be able to bring something so beautiful to all of us. And her son's here who's going to be playing guitar with us later on. And that was the beautiful thing about Jack and about our era then and about what's happening now, that the gigantic, colossal, super huge monster entertainment industry like the Titanic has sunk to the bottom, being too big, too fast, not considering the needs of its customers and administering the poor way. So there's nothing left but the millions of us that look to do it and the hundreds of millions of people who would love to be able to be part of that too. And this place, the Falcon, is emblematic of what our presence and our future is going to be. Small is beautiful. And you have to remember that the Gettysburg Address was not done at Yankee Stadium, but at a railroad station. When the Sermon on the Mount was delivered, it wasn't on HBO. It was out in the desert somewhere. And some of the most beautiful things that have lasted were not super colossal, monstrous, and old, today and going tomorrow to smash overs, but rather just something beautiful. As the great bebop poet of the 19th century, John Keats, so eloquently said in his poem Endymion, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. So to read one of the beautiful pieces that Jack and I used to do all the time, please welcome Kirsten, who's going to come up and read. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. My skin is weeping right now because my heart was weeping for the last month, for the last year, for the last 2 years. It's actually calamine lotion, so don't mind. So I'm going to read this beautiful poem, So in America. When the sun goes down and I sit on the old broken down river pier, watching the long, long skies over New Jersey. And I sense all the that raw land that rolls in one unbelievable, huge bulge over the west coast, or to the west coast. And all that road going, all the people dreaming, and the immensity of it. And in Iowa, I know by now. In Iowa, I know by now. The children, they must be weeping children cried, and tonight the stars will be out. And don't you know that God is Pooh Bear? The evening star must be drooping and shedding her sparkler gems on the prairie, which is just before the coming of complete night. That complete night that blesses the earth, darkens all rivers, cups the peaks, and folds the final shore in, and nobody knows what's going to happen. What's going to happen to anybody besides the forlorn rags of growing old? I think of Dean Moriarty. I think of Dean Moriarty. I even think of old Dean Moriarty, the father we never found. I think of Dean Moriarty. And I thank you, David, and the quartet for having me here tonight.
Thank you, that was so beautiful. And now we're going to play something a little more cheerful than Jack and I. With lyrics by Neil Cassidy, who's a road buddy, and Allen Ginsberg, the poet, all wrote that kind of appropriately whatever they be in New York City. There was a little open book, and they would just write and scribble down some kind of a addition to it. And eventually, it became a long, really long poem. So in the film, Jack chose the parts that he liked the most, and that's what we saw when we saw the film. This was actually, he edited the movie out and cut out a lot of verses. So this is the one that we used in the film with their words, and then the beginning and the end, I just make up a lot of stuff myself, but that's nothing that hasn't been done for a long time. And Homer was the first great jazz poet, and he did the Odyssey of the Ship. Since he couldn't see, he didn't have a lawyer or a career counsel giving him cue cards. He just made up the stuff on the spot. While poor Neil player was there, that really has some chops to be able to play for months, accompanying 1,400 pages, and someone else wrote that. So this is our version of, it's a little different each time, of a wonderful song that we did a long time ago called Pull My Daisy. And it's 2022 version. Well, here we are at the beautiful old Falcon on a wonderful June night. Seeing all of you show up and watching CNN's yay, verily out of sync. Now we can only thank you for coming here and thinking of me, because his father was most certainly, Tony was the guy who made us all see that if we only let our minds go, we could be free. So we're going to dedicate this song to him and to all the people who came before. We realize the spontaneity and the gifts of improvisation is something that all of us are born and therefore you don't have to worry about being right or wrong or whether anyone considers it to be ours. It's only correct if you feel it yourself, and then you know that you can do your little part. Now, people who ride compulsively like this are considered to be certifiably crazy. So I'm only going to say that's the beautiful Marlboro June 2nd, 2022 introduction to Pull My Daisy. Pull my daisy, tip my cup, all my doors open. Half my heart for coconuts, all my eggs broken. Half my heart's on half my light. Slaves hold me steady. Lift my angel, half my light. Lay on the dee-dee. Harp my heart song, harp my light. Sorrow, so be steady. If my angel harp my light, lay it on the dee-dee. Well, when Jack and Neil and Al and I wrote the song way back in 1959, I never thought that all these years later we'd be here in Marlboro, New York, feeling so fine. And we want to share this little song with all of you. So when you go home, you'll know what to do. You can write a much better way yourself and take those self-help videos and put them on someone else's shelf. We don't need advice on how to be free, cause it's only what you feel. And if you do what you feel, you can't go wrong. And I'm sure you can be right. A much better song. Well, we got some great musicians here tonight, and they're going to play a little for you. And then when we're done, we hope that you'll go home, you'll know what to do. Just to be creative each and every day. You were born that way. So, without adieu, we're gonna let the old piano play for you. To which I was born, we're gonna play 4 bars after his solo like the stars. So, but no compliment can be too big when you're introducing Mr. Kevin Tweed. I was this to King Quick, playing this song for you. And we know that at 9 o'clock we're supposed to be through. So we're going to play 4 bars. My friend's heart broken down, and I'm so good help. We're going to do it anyway. And I'll play a little bit on the pen that whistles. That's all I got to say. That's the way they used to scat sing long ago in what they now generically call back in the day. And Jack, being a good French-Canadian boy, always did what his father told him to do. And since Leo, his dad, always spoke Quebec style French at home, he said, "Mon cher Jackie, this is what you got to do. Si vous restez ici toute la vie, alors sûrement tu seras obligé comme ta mère à travailler toute la vie dans une factory." So therefore he told Jack, with his wonderful A+ averages in English and his football skills, which gave everyone global thrills, to try to get a scholarship to go to Notre Dame or Columbia University. He really makes something out of himself, and that's just right away in a factory in Lowell, Massachusetts, all of his life. And sure enough, he got accepted by prestigious Horace Mann to do something so that someday he could be successful, an all-American boy, and end up with an all-American wife. Well, he got fantastic grades, which are unmatched in sports as well as in English literature. And he's still in the books. And that wonderful Horace Mann School, if you check it out. But he got accepted to mighty, incredible, ivy-colored, top 5 prestigious Columbia U. And he was so excited, like all his friends back in Lowell, Massachusetts, that he, nor them, scarcely knew what to do. Well, the 3rd week in practice, he broke his leg, and the little great coach said, "Jack, your athletic career is through." Well, he stayed in academia just a little while longer, and then he split the scene, you know what I mean, and went out to sea, had kind of miserable day jobs of all types. And then wrote the final wonderful book called Down the City, which was incredible, but didn't get any sales or any good reviews. Well, finally, in 3 weeks' time, not taking Benzedrine, but only drinking coffee and smoking Camel cigarettes, he wrote the entire 10th version of On the Road. Everyone else today doesn't know how possible for that to do. Well, Truman Capote later on came out and said it wasn't writing, it was typing. And all the viciousness of the critics didn't discourage him. He kept on writing books until he died in 1969 with $83 because he never gave up what he dreamt of doing in the first place. And now, all these years later, he's being studied in 20-some languages all over the world. So for everyone here at the Falcon, whether you want to write, paint, sing, or do any kind of creative thing, including getting your garden ready for this now celestial and quite damp spring, let's all remember that it doesn't mean you're indolent and adolescent and lazy. Just remember to pull your days. Post-dinner plans. But we do have two wonderful guest artists, and there's a young man. He's not only the son of the person who you heard, Kristen, who you heard read so beautifully, he also goes to Berkeley School, and he lives in Red Hook, New York, not far from here. And in the great tradition of playing jazz and living, he's going to join us, and we hope we can keep up with him. He's going to play, this is a blues and F, and this is also a song that I wrote for the man who dreamed of having this place. After he moved from his back porch